What's up, guys? Welcome to the 5th edition of the newsletter. Basically a weekly video newsletter to you where we just talk about what's going on this week. And really, because this is the last newsletter that you're going to get in 2019, I thought we'd talk about some bigger, broader concepts. And you're going to get a lot of this stuff from a lot of people, but hopefully this one is of value to you because it takes time to put these together, and I love doing them, and I just hope you get value out of them, and that's why I do them. Because I have like 400 things I need to do around this house, and instead of doing those, I'm here with you. So I'm gonna take that hit from my wife because I love you guys so much. 2019 was not a tremendous year for me personally or the Hanley household in general. A lot of turmoil. I was in the insurance industry with Bold Penguin. That wasn't really working out the way that I had hoped. Kind of on both sides. Nothing against Bold Penguin. I wasn't holding up my end of the bargain either. So there was kind of a weird thing there. Left that for the fitness industry for 9 months, which I gave everything I had and just never seemed to really click over, I guess. Even though I thought things were going well, and I get terminated as the CEO of that company. And we talked last time about how I kind of fell apart after that a little bit, to a certain extent. Certainly not like, I wasn't like doing crack and under a bridge somewhere, but I just emotionally wasn't in a great place. And then, kind of making the decision to finally re-engage in the insurance industry brought me back out, but that's a tumultuous time. During that time, I'm putting my wife through a lot of things. My income to this household has gone way up, way down, all over the place. That's never good in general. We lost my brother-in-law, which was something I don't want to dwell on, but caused a tremendous amount of pain and still does to this day in our household. My family and my extended family, and we deal with that almost every day. So, outside of the fact that my kids are still very healthy, my wife is healthy, I'm healthy, my parents, my sister are healthy. I've built some great friendships this year. Re-engaged some friendships that I think I had let go. And just that I had let wane a little, and that has been tremendous because it's just, it really fills your heart with a lot of love and joy when you re-engage with someone who maybe you hadn't spoken to in a long time, and they come back with the same degree of enthusiasm that you're coming at them with, and the reciprocation of that relationship is tremendous and heartwarming, and I guess that has been a very positive thing of 2019. Something I've definitely learned is that to not be scared about re-engaging someone who maybe you haven't, whose relationship you let wander, because oftentimes it's quite possible that they have wanted that relationship back as well. And so that was something I learned this year that I was very happy with. But in general, I'm glad to see 2019 go. I didn't do much speaking in 2019. I only had 4 or 5 gigs. Speaking is something I absolutely love doing. And though with many of the things that are going to be taking place in 2020, I won't be able to do as much of it, 6 to 8 gigs where I can get in front of an audience and really kind of help get them motivated and inspired and turned on to some new ideas. That really cranks my engine. I guess you could say, I don't know. I've never said that saying before. That really gets my engine going. So hopefully that will happen this year. We'll see. But it just, because 2019 was just there's just not a lot of good stuff. There was some really, really negative stuff. My brother-in-law, some of the things, some places I went, just really. But there's a lot of positive there too, and I think that's the important part. A couple things that I want to talk about here. that I want to share with you, kind of 2019, classic 2019 things, like my 2019 best of reading list. It featured a lot of books on Stoicism, and I really dug into a lot of philosophy. Even before I was terminated from Metabolic, because I wanted to be a better leader. And I believe that psychology and philosophy and having a solid understanding of these concepts is crucial to being a quality leader. If you don't understand yourself, if you don't understand people, how people interact, what their motivations are, if you don't understand, or at least have like I said, a baser understanding of where people are coming from and how to place yourself in their shoes and see things from their perspective, and then be able to navigate through that, then it's really difficult to lead people. So as I've become more of a leader, or as I became more of a leader and took on that role at Metabolic, I dove into philosophy and psychology, and that took me to Stoicism. And it started with my first book recommendation, and this is probably, I don't know if these will be exactly in order, but I would absolutely positively recommend that you read Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday. I'd actually recommend that you read his trilogy, which is The Obstacle is the Way, Ego is the Enemy, and then this is the third, Stillness is the Key. I think you should read all three of them. As you can see, it's kind of it's a 4x6, I'd say, book. You can fly through this in a day or two, but I mean, I've only tagged like half the book so far, as you can see, and just look at how many tags I have. This book sold me on Stoicism as a philosophy that needs to be part of the framework of who I am. And I just absolutely adored it. And I'm just opening up the book. Here's what Stoicism taught me this year, and I'll just give you my other book recommendations. I'm gonna butcher this because I always do. The Enchiridion by Epictetus. This is it's called the Manual. If you were to translate it into English, it's the Manual. It's the first of 4 books that were put together of Epictetus's work. Epictetus was actually one of the philosophical mentors or inspirations, because I'm not sure they lived at the exact same time, for Marcus Aurelius and his work, which was produced post his passing, called Meditations, which actually has nothing to do with actually meditating. So Ryan Holiday writes a lot on Stoicism, and then I read Marcus Aurelius, and then I read Epictetus, and I'm going to read Seneca next, and I have a whole bunch more. I'll have all these books linked up in the description below, so you'll be able to get them if you're interested. But here's the philosophy that when I started to dive into this and grab onto it, and I actually heard Ryan Holiday explain it in an interview, and then he writes about it. And I just think it has to do with free will and the choices that we make in our life, and how Stoicism, and this is how Ryan Holiday explains it, is, fate is fate. It's consider it a horse cart, rolling down a path, and that's fate. There's nothing you can do about that. What's going to happen is going to happen the way that it was meant to happen. And that means good, and it means bad, and it means anxiety, and it means stillness and peace, and it means all the things. Our free will is our choice to either trot alongside that cart happily, at peace with what fate has thrown us, both the good and the bad, or we can lie down like an obstinate dog, tethered to that cart, and be dragged along, miserable and unhappy, and spreading that misery to everyone who comes in contact with us. That's the choice that we have. And when I thought about it that way, and obviously that's a highly debatable version of our free will and fate and all that kind of stuff, and depending on if you're Christian or whatever religion, I'm sure there's all different viewpoints on that. I get into debates with my mom about this stuff all the time, because I'm definitely would classify, I guess, as a Christian, but definitely there's some tons of gray area in my belief structure, and even though I've read many parts of the Bible, I've never read the whole thing. I also, so Marcus Aurelius is writing while the Bible is being written, close to 300 years after Jesus has lived. Marcus Aurelius is writing about many of the same topics, many of the same concepts and ideas from his palace in Rome as the emperor. I mean, this is literally happening at the same time. Like, the Bible is being written and the work that eventually becomes On Meditation is being written at the same time. So it's just really interesting stuff. There are undeniable lessons that, regardless of what classification you put on them, have to be taken in, I think, in order to be successful. And that idea of, I don't know that we just accept it, but we deal with it. We deal with what is brought to us. And part of life is working through that. And that has really helped me. It's helped me. And these are just 3 of the books that I've read. I've read a ton of stuff online. So Meditations, The Manual by Epictetus, in Latin, I think it's in Charidian, and then Stillness is the Key. Ryan Holiday is like almost a must-read. Anything that he produces is a must-read. Actually, one of my recommendations for newsletters that you should subscribe to is The Daily Stoic, which Ryan Holiday produces. It's just tremendous. So I'll get to newsletter recommendations in a second. Okay, 2 more books, much more applicable, much less ethereal, fluffy, philosophical stuff. 2 books that I think are much more applicable to your life. So for any of you who are business-minded, leadership-focused, What to Do, What You Do is Who You Are by Ben Horowitz. This is a tremendous read. It's a very quick read. I haven't tagged it yet, but I have so many notes in this book. Ben Horowitz is tremendous, and just the very pragmatic way that he views leadership. It is not a classic leadership book. It is very real world, lots of examples from both his life and because he's the Horowitz and Andreessen Horowitz, one of the most well-respected venture capital firms in Silicon Valley. Lots of examples from companies invested in or people he's worked with. This is a wonderful book to grab. This is a plane ride. You go somewhere between the plane ride there and the plane ride back, you'll have this read and you'll have tons of notes from it and be very happy that you did. It's not a mind bender, much more practical, much more tangible ideas that you can implement through leadership. So I highly recommend that. And then the last book that I read this year, which I actually am marked here because I'm kind of coming back through it. This was a very thick, very heavy read, Mastery by Robert Greene. It's been on my list for a long time. I heard him talk about this, he's got a bunch of books. 48 Laws of Power, I think, is what he's most famous for. But this book, I heard him talk about this book in an interview, I think with James Altucher. Maybe it was Joe Rogan. But what I love about this book is how he examines the idea of individuality and how important individuality is to our success and mastery of a topic. There's too much in here to go much deeper. If you're looking for a really meaty book, this is not a plane ride and back book. This is many plane rides and back. The words are very tight, very big pages. This will get you mind spinning around your application of time, resources, focus, and the things that you're actually working on. Like, what are you becoming a master of, and how do you get there? And is that in something that's important to your life? This is a must read. It's a very good book. So I'll have this linked up as well. Okay, so those are the 5 books. Different ways. I think I read I think 10 books this year total. Some of the others were rereads. I reread 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. I read America Before, which is an amazing book. It's a I don't want to call it conspiracy theory, but really, really good, by Graham Hancock. I read a couple fiction books. So that's basically that. Probably spending too much time on this, but those are. Okay, I want to recommend a couple newsletters for you. We're probably running a little long here, but I want to recommend a couple newsletters for you. These are newsletters that I get in my inbox either daily or weekly, or in some cases bi-weekly. If you're a dad or a parent, but in particular dads out there, there's a newsletter called The Daily Dad. Go to The Daily Dad. I can't remember who recommended this to me, but I don't read it every day, but I do try to peruse it. It does help me just kind of frame up my mindset and being a dad. We all make mistakes. Being a mom isn't easy. Being a dad isn't easy. I'm not comparing the two. But if you are a dad, this speaks specifically to dads. And I will say that it has helped me at times, particularly when I'm frustrated or feel like I'm doing something wrong. It's helped me either know, hey, you need to change that, or like take a deep breath. This stuff happens to everybody. So that's a good one. Zach Mefford referred me to The Hustle. That's fairly new for me, but it's got a lot of interesting things about business and that kind of stuff in it. And it's kind of light. You can kind of skim through it. I just take a quick look. Sometimes something grabs me, sometimes it doesn't. But either way, that's a good one. Two of the best, the absolute best marketing, creating newsletters that exist are Tamsin Webster's. She was a former guest on the podcast. You should go back and listen to her episode, or just go to tamsinwebster.com, subscribe to her newsletter. I highly recommend listening to the podcast if you haven't. But Tamsin Webster and Ann Hanley. Ann Hanley is just absolutely tremendous. I have a podcast interview coming out with her this week. So if you're watching this, it'll either be out the next day, or if you're watching it, it's probably out when you're watching this. If it's not, it will be soon. Subscribe to Ryan Hanley Show to get it. But she is out of this world, creative in the way she views things and how she turns high-level concepts into tactical processes and details that you can use in your everyday life to just create better, sell better, create better copy. She's wonderful. So Ann Hanley is another one, her newsletter. And then the last one I already mentioned was The Daily Stoic. I get some more, but they're more specific to who I am, and I'm not sure that everyone would love them. So those are five that I get. And the reason I like subscribing to newsletters is because if I'm not interested, don't have time, I just delete it. Right? I mean, I don't have to open the email. Like, just because someone sent me an email doesn't mean I have to open it. So I can just be like, Tamsin, I love you, but today I don't have the time. Delete, move on, and then I'll get the next one, and I'll open it. So my inbox, I do use as a way to catalog some of this stuff. So those are the newsletters I recommend. Podcasts, I've been listening to the same podcasts forever, but I just find them to be tremendous. I listen to James Altucher. I've listened to James Altucher's podcast since pretty much day one. I'm just opening my podcast list here. I listen to Gary Vaynerchuk still. I listen to Joe Rogan still. Those are kind of and Seth Godin's podcast. Again, I don't listen to every episode, but I listen to the ones that grab me. I have Tim Ferriss's on here. I have been listening to the work that Sydney's been doing with Neon's podcast, the Be Atomic podcast. That's very good. She's doing a great job. And then some new ones that I added, and these are non-insurance industry podcasts. Insurance industry podcasts, Cass, and then Bradley Flowers and Scott Howell's podcast. So Cass's is one, and then Jason Cass's, and then Bradley Flowers and Scott Howell's. Those are probably the two I listen to the most. I do grab other people's podcasts as I see them, but I listen to those guys the most. New podcast that I added for your consideration, Starting Greatness by Mike Maples. This is a entrepreneur, startup, founder podcast by a guy who, it's real. It's not like, you got to grind. And it's not like that kind of crappy, motivational BS from people that haven't really done it. Like, Mike Maples has been around the industry for a long time, and the people that he has on his podcast are epic, and their stories are wonderful. And even if you've been in business for a long time, you're not in a startup or whatever, there's so much stuff that you can get out of it. It's really well done. It's if you're into that space, Starting Greatness by Mike Maples Jr. I started listening to Congressional Dish, which is a political podcast. I just find the woman who does this to be absolutely hilarious, and I'm gonna lose her name. Let's see, her name is Jennifer Briney. She's hilarious. She attacks some topics. I don't always agree with her, but she has a fairly, I believe, non-biased take on things, and it's incredibly well researched. I mean, these are 2-hour-long shows, and it just, I don't know, I find it to be interesting. I like to pretend like I'm not interested in politics, but I am. I listen to Derek Sivers' podcast. They're super short. They're like 3 minutes long, but you get tons of good information, like tons of really, really good stuff. Just like little nuggets, just like, I don't want that. And then, oh, wow, that one got me. Okay, I need to think about that. It's like, because they're only like 3 to 4 minutes long. So, and then the last one that I added this year is The Portal by Eric Weinstein. I love Eric Weinstein. I would have to classify him as an acquired taste, but there's something about the work that he's doing at The Portal and the way that he's going about it that I just can't. It's this enormous range of topics, from economics to physics to politics to social topics to really nerdy, like in the weeds, like math stuff. But it's just incredible the way that he examines topics, and I think right now it's one of the most interesting podcasts that exist. The Portal by Eric Weinstein. It's just interesting. I mean, you don't have to love every topic, and you don't even have to like him. I do, but it's interesting, and I think that's what it's all about, right? I mean, you just want to bend your mind a little bit, and maybe something falls out that you didn't know was there before, and that's what I'm trying to do most of the time. So that's podcasts for 2019 that really grabbed me. I consume a lot of content. I'm okay with that. Sometimes I go a little overboard and I have to dial it back, and I'm always doing refreshes and deleting stuff and then adding stuff back in. And I've been on Seth Godin, off of Seth Godin, Gary Vee, been on into his stuff a lot, then I step off of his stuff. Joe Rogan, I'll listen to 10 of his episodes in a row, and then I won't listen to one for a month, and then I'll be back on it. And I think that's natural. I think it's okay. What I do think in general is we need to cross-pollinate the inputs that we get. And that's why I listen to stuff ranging from crazy math, economic theory, to politics, to marketing, to just comedians talking about stupid shit that I have no interest in, to like, I think the mashup of ideas and I take all these inputs and where they crisscross helps me put things together in my own life and in business and then in the work that I do. So that's where all these inputs come from. But I think it's important to read, and it's important to listen to things, and it's important to watch videos, and I think the different mediums help as well. I don't necessarily think that just going one medium, one topic, though you will get a lot of information, I think that it eventually that becomes a weakness or a vulnerability because you're so narrowly focused. And that's what I want to avoid. So, okay. The last thing, guys, that I want to leave you with here, if you're even still watching at this point, because this has been a long one, is I just want to say thank you to you. I'm launching 2 incredibly large projects in 2020. I finally decided to, like, I think what fate has been telling me for a while, and I've been the dog laying down, tethered, being dragged, is it's time for me to step into the arena. And I want to share with you, like Roosevelt's the quote from Roosevelt's The Man in the Arena, because I think just walking into 2020, I think this is what's important. I think what I've learned this year is that you have to step into the arena and get bloodied. And the quote from Teddy Roosevelt, it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. And I think that I have had just one foot in the arena for most of my career, and it's time to put 2 in. If you feel the same way, I hope that you will as well. It just feels natural. I woke up and I looked at my wife and I just said, like, I'm waking up with a smile, and I haven't even built, my agency yet. Like, Rogue Risk isn't even a thing. I'm working on it. I have have notes and I'm talking to people and I'm putting things in line and calling carriers and working on, I'm getting close, registering the LLC, all the things, but it's not a thing yet, but just doing the work, feeling like I'm gonna put this into the world and I'm gonna do everything I can. And if it doesn't work, well then at least I did it. Like I can step back and say that I did it. I'm just so sick of kind of watching from the sidelines and being an observer. Because it has felt, I think the grind that I've felt has been the misalignment of what my fate is supposed to be and what I was allowing it to be. And so I'm very excited. And it's why I also started the Inside. So the Inside is a membership community. It does come with a cost. It's $75 a month, but you basically get 2 videos a week journaling my stepping into the arena, my building Rogue Risk. This agency that I'm building, how I'm building it, who I'm working with, the products I'm using, the decisions I'm making, everything that goes into building this agency, I am detailing and chronicling in the Inside. And if that you're interested in that, if you want to be part of that journey, both in talking about your own struggles and how we can use what I know and what I'm doing and who else is in the community and we can mix up and grow together, and just using really just my process of building this agency is the construct for the community, but it's not the entire purpose of the community. The Inside is basically bringing people together who want to be surrounded by a group of individuals who are interested in helping each other grow, and that's the Inside. And I hope that you'll join. I hope that you'll join the Inside. I didn't do a great job of launching it. I just wanted to get into the game. I wanted to move forward, and I just pushed it out there actually 2 days before Christmas, which technically is probably the worst time to launch a product ever, is 2 days before Christmas, especially a membership community. It's not the hottest like kids toy or whatever, but I do think that it will provide incredible value, specifically versus the cost, and I hope that you'll be part of it if it's something you're interested in. So guys, I wish you nothing but everything that you want in 2020. I hope that you'll step into the arena and whatever that means for you in 2020. And if I can help you, you know how to get at me. I love you for watching this. Thank you for watching this. I'm out of here. Peace.